Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Ogana. Do well to subscribe and join the family. We'll be happy to have you. So as the title goes, today's video is about saying no. But I find that a lot of people find it very difficult to say no. Well, so I believe saying no as an adult is a skill that everyone needs to possess. Not for any reason else other than because it is important and it is necessary, especially in certain situations. For instance, when your values are being compromised. Secondly, when you're overwhelmed with commitments. And thirdly, when you need to prioritize your mental and physical health. These are all times when it's important to say no when things come up. But these notwithstanding, there are still reasons why sometimes people still get to say yes, even though in their minds what they really mean to say is no. And this can be because of fear, because they're trying to avoid confrontation, because they're trying to be polite, maybe because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. Or maybe it's because of lack of boundaries or the fear of missing out. Or maybe it's habits. For some people, their automated response to anything is yes, like they always agree to things. This can be a problem because if you end up saying yes when you really mean to say no, it can lead to burnout or overcommitment where you now have so many things that you need to do and then maybe you're not even able to finish up on anyone. Or it can lead to feelings of resentment because you feel like you're obligated to do that thing, but you really don't want to do it, but you just don't know how to say no to it. So we're going to run through a few options, how you can actually ensure that whatever it is you're agreeing to, you really mean to agree to it. It's not just because of maybe pressure or fear or any of the other reasons I have mentioned. So number one on the list is self-reflection. First and foremost, you really want to understand what the trigger is or what the reason is why you find yourself saying yes when you need to say no. So you need to find the root cause. Is it fear? What are you afraid of? Is it peer pressure? Are you around people who are making you do things that you don't really believe in or you don't really agree with? So maybe it's a case of your friends are trying to do something, but it's not really something that you're interested in, or it's not something that you like, or it's not something that you think you should be doing. But because they're all doing it, you just feel like maybe that's what you should be doing as well, but that's not necessarily the case. So you really need to find what the root cause is before you can now tackle it. The truth is that this is not even necessarily a solution per se. This can help you decide what solution should you be looking for and what are you looking for a solution for. Because if you're trying to do like a surface level tackling where you're not really tackling where it's coming from, you can't really sustain it because you're not getting to the base of the problem. You need to know the root of the problem so that you can actually fix it. The next one is don't answer immediately. This one applies to people who their automated answer is yes to everything. So instead of just directly jumping into saying yes, train yourself to always tell people, I'll get back to you. Let me think it through and let you know. Or, oh, I can't really answer right now. I'll get back to you. Or let me check my schedule. Or let me check if there's anything I have planned out and I'll get back to you. So that you actually have some time to think about it away from the pressure. Because I know there are people who maybe you're standing right there in front of them and you're asking them, can you do this? Or are you available for this? And there's just so much pressure. So they're just so quick to say, yes, okay. So that it just goes away or so that the person just lets them be or lets them rest. But at the end of the day, after now agreeing to that thing, when this person now leaves, you're now thinking it through and you're just like, oh my God, I actually have something I need to do here. Or, oh God, this doesn't really work for me. Or you've already agreed to it. And then maybe you now feel like, oh, how do I now get to tell them that, oh, I won't be able to do it? Because you're now worried that, okay, this can now become an issue. This can now cause a problem. But if you really don't want to go through that hassle, instead of just jumping right into answering and saying yes without thinking it through, buy some time so that you can actually think it through and then make the right choice. So that when you now decide that you're saying yes to it, you actually want to say yes to it because maybe you have the time to accommodate that particular activity or that particular thing. So it's not just a case of you just accepting anything or just jumping into anything and then feeling you have to go through with it. So instead of now saying yes and then having to go through the awkwardness of now saying, oh, I can't go, or I would rather not, or now having to go through it when your mind is really not there, or maybe you don't have the time for it, or maybe because you need to rest or something. Instead, just say, I don't know, or I really am not sure right now. Let me get back to you, and then think it through before you answer. The next one on the list is prioritize your mental and physical health. Because as the saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. There's only so much that one person is capable of doing. There is only so much that you can do as a person without breaking down. You need to ensure that you're taking care of yourself. When you're at 100, you're at your best. So whatever it is you're doing with your best ability. And so it's not favorable to you if you're accepting to do things when you're physically exhausted or mentally exhausted. You really don't want to be doing that to yourself. You're not a machine. In fact, even machines need time off. Let's use our phones for example now. The reason why you have a phone and the phone comes with a charger is because you need to charge the battery. So it's like there is a battery level, it's at 100 and then it's dropping, it's dropping, it's dropping, it's dropping. By the time the battery runs down to zero, the phone will go off. A phone that is off is useless. Like you can't do anything with it. So that's how it applies to everybody. It's like you have a battery even though you can't see it. So it's like this battery needs to be charged. So if you just keep giving and giving and giving, and you eventually give out everything that there is to give, you have put yourself in a useless state because you can't do anything, you can't achieve anything because you are exhausted, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically. Your body needs rest. To show up for yourself and for them, you actually need to take care of yourself, because charity begins at home. You can't give where there is nothing to give. So always ensure that you check in with yourself to know that whatever it is that someone's asking me for, am I actually available for it? Am I pushing myself too much? Because I'm not saying don't sacrifice your time or don't show up for people that you care about, but there is only so much you can do when you are not taking care of yourself. Let's say for instance now, a friend of yours needs someone to talk to and you're tired, so maybe that's not a good time for you to be having that conversation, but you don't know how to say no. You now decide that in that tired state you want to have that conversation, and then you're there and then you're maybe slipping off. Are you really being there for your friend if you're being honest? The next one will be to set boundaries and keep to them. Now, we're different people. We have friends who may have different values, friends who may have different goals in life, but you people shall happen to be friends. Now, me, my own personal value may be now that maybe I don't drink alcohol, but you don't have a problem with drinking alcohol, and we hang out together, and then you're offering me alcohol, or there's alcohol there, and everybody's looking at me to drink. Well, I mean, I don't drink alcohol. Maybe I have my personal reasons, whether it's religious, whether it's health reasons, but whatever the reason is, that's what I have chosen not to do. Now, if you're going to set boundaries, you have to be very clear about them, and you have to be willing to stick to them. Because if you're not willing to stick to them and you're just talking, people will not take it seriously. So if you're setting a boundary and you have a reason why you have set that boundary, because I'm assuming that for you to have set that boundary, you have thought about it and you have felt this is what I would rather do. So since you have now set a boundary for yourself, you have to be clear about what your boundary is and why you're not looking to do something that doesn't align with what you have set for yourself. So whether it's with respect to your personal goals or your values or just how you behave as a person generally, whatever it has to do with, you have to be very clear about them and you have to be willing to stick to them. You have to know this is the reason why I chose this thing in the first place, and that's the reason why I can't do this right now. Those are all things that you have to ensure that you're doing. So you have to be very clear. You don't have to be rude about it, but just be very clear about it and why you're not doing it. But you will also be polite about it, because you're not there to be rude. You just want to communicate that this doesn't work for you, so you will not do it. The reason why I'm even saying this is because for some people, they feel like when they say no, it may come off as rude, or it may be like, oh, this person is not nice. But it has nothing to do with niceness. I promise you. You can be a nice person and say no. Like, they don't have to go together. You can nicely tell people no. So if what someone is doing, or if what someone wants you to do doesn't really work with where you're headed, there's no reason for you to be doing it. Or if you've made up your mind that you don't want to do something for the reason that you have chosen, don't allow anybody now pressure you to do it because you feel like you want to be polite, or you don't want to sound like you're not a nice person. It doesn't work like that. The final one for this video is offer alternatives. So maybe someone is offering, or maybe someone's requesting that you do something for them now, or that you guys hang out now, but then now doesn't work for you, maybe because you're trying to finish up on something, or maybe you have a deadline that you need to work with. As long as you have something to do and you're occupied, you don't need to abandon what you're doing just because you want to say yes. You can always offer an alternative. Maybe, okay, can we do this later in the evening, or can we do this later, or can we do this tomorrow, or does this weekend work for you? But you can offer series of alternatives, another time, another day. Yeah, so if someone comes to meet you and it's really not a case of emergency, there's no point just jumping into saying yes just because you want to say yes, or just because you want to be like the most active person, or because you're so scared that something can happen if you don't accept this thing right now, or I don't know, but for whatever reason, instead of just jumping into saying yes, just offer an alternative. If the person is your friend, or if the person is close to you, or if the person is a reasonable person, the person will understand that this time doesn't work for you. At the end of the day, you just want things to balance out. You don't want to put yourself in situations that you're not comfortable in, or in situations that you're not happy to be in, just because you don't know how to say no. So I really just think that saying no is a skill that every adult should have, because at the end of the day, we're all different people. So something may work for someone else and just doesn't work for you. So you're not obligated to just accept and accept and accept or just say yes and say yes and say yes, and then get into a position of discomfort, or get into a position where you're overburdened, or get into a position where you're so overwhelmed because of all the things that you've accepted to do. So just ensure that you're balancing things out and you're not doing things out of pressure, but that you're doing things because you really want to do them. So there is no reason to feel guilty if you're really not in the right state to do something, and there is time for everything. So really, there is nothing wrong with saying no, and at the end of the day, nobody can beat you. So that's really all I have for you guys in this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, do well to like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.